Derek, you had a couple games, Rangers and Buffalo, where quite a few goals went in and you didn't make goalie change. What made you decide?
This one was different. In those last two games where we took it on the chin versus the Rangers and Buffalo, we gave up 8. You could tell we had hit a wall as a team. Whether it was the workload coming up to it, whether it was just some energies, you could feel like it was going to keep going. And I didn't want to do that to the goalie playing next game. It would make no sense putting Villy in Buffalo to face a barrage in the last 8 to 10 minutes and then play him the next night. This felt different. We weren't giving up much. We were controlling the game. Positionally, we were controlling the game. It was just a change. So that's the difference in the two. We had hit a wall in those 2 blowouts, and I didn't want to do that to the goalie starting next game. But this one was different. We were still in this game. You could see where the play, where it was going. It was just for a change.
I know, you don't want to mess when you're winning. But goalies, I mean, do you feel like, is there kind of a time frame where you don't want a guy sitting too long? Like Alex, you needed to get him going at some point.
That worked out probably better than we had expected or hoped, just because of that purpose. Ned was going to get one of the next 2 games. We had that planned for a while. But it was good for him to get in there and get a rhythm last night. And it was perfect. We faced some action, but not a whole lot. So it was good for him just to see some action, get some rhythm, and go from there. Yeah. And, on the other end, we want to get that balance of not overplaying Villy. This is uncharted territory for Villy, playing 6 in a row. The potential workload he's facing. So there's 2 ends to that, and I'm glad Neto got in there and got some good looks.
Are you playing him tomorrow?
Yeah, Neto will be in the net tomorrow, yes.
Do you have like an idea of what's ideal? It's a fairly compact schedule all in all of how much each goalie, of 2 goalies, regardless of who they are, can play? Or
Yeah, that's a great question, because I think there's a lot to that. I know a little experience in Tampa coming from having a true number one, arguably the best goalie in the league, and Vasi, and the balance of playing him versus tiring him out and having enough in the tank for the playoffs. So there's a little of that. I think we're in a little different situation here with these 2 goalies. Neither of them have really played a 65 game schedule or a workload in the season. So I think this is something we're going to have to keep evaluating throughout the year. I mean, we were in that fine line last night with playing Villy 6 in a row, but the schedule kind of played out a little bit. So, it's played out. Neto will get the net tomorrow, and we'll reevaluate from there. And hopefully, Neto puts a performance in where we want to get him back in there sooner than later.
Said last night, good teams find a way to have good practice today and then go in tomorrow. Step 1 of that today. How did you feel?
I liked our practice today, and it was just a message, and I meant it. We're sitting here 4-1-1 stretch. Even the 1 loss, we played pretty well last night. Obviously, that was a lot different than a couple of our other losses throughout the season. But a good team would bounce back from that, and that is our goal going into tomorrow.
Derek, we've talked about it throughout the season, and maybe some of the subtle changes that you make, switching a guy on lines, is that to spark better play 5-on-5? Is there a way to get more consistency 5-on-5?
Yeah. I think anytime you make a change in the forward lines, it's probably a 5-on-5. There's sometimes it may be a little rhythm within your special teams. But yeah, of course. I've liked our 5-on-5. This has been our best stretch of 5-on-5 play of late. I think there's also a reality of what we're at. I mean, you look at Toronto. I mean, you can see why they're winning. They basically take risk out of their game. They don't do anything to get yourself in trouble, and then they let their world-class guys score a couple goals. Like, it was, you can laugh, and it seems simple as can be, but that's great coaching. It's a formula. And, we're not much. We win that game last night mostly. We've won that game. We're giving the Toronto Maple Leafs 9 chances against. I mean, that's unheard of. We win that game most nights. So I don't think our formula is going to change. Just last night was a game that just didn't go our way.
Toronto seems to have their formula down. Are you still, are you still
Of course.
concocting your?
Yeah, and then we talk about margin of error. And this is, everyone's talking about where we are as a team. Again, this might pump the brakes, being realistic on where we're at. We talk about having to be our best to beat anyone in this league, and then how our margin of error is different versus elite teams. Toronto comes in last night, that's an elite team. We literally give up 2 chances in the first period, both end up in the back of our net. We've given up 5 chances through 30 minutes, 4 ended up in the back of our nets. That's the margin of error I'm talking about with great teams. Do we get away with that game versus some lesser competition? Probably, but that's kind of where we're going to be at. This is going to be the test I'm talking about over the next 10, 20 games. We start to play some of the elite in the league.
You said you like the 5-on-5 as of late. Did you notice any major differences or major improvements?
Probably a little more offense. The same numbers of what we're giving up is similar. And again, you got to. We're going through some of these games, giving up 8, 9, 10 chances against. You do that in a period sometimes. It's a huge credit to our forward group and our D group and our 5-on-5 play on what we're giving up. But we're probably producing a little bit more offense. Getting to the net, those hard areas a little more. Let's put us on the good side of some of these underlying numbers in these past few games.
Does that come with just the learning curve of trying to learn your systems and all of that?
I think it's habits. They become part of who you are. Even internally when we have our team meetings, we'd have a meeting review and we'd probably have 6, 7 topics because there's so much. So now we're meeting and today's a perfect example. We talked about track. Track was our issue last night. We gave their world-class players too much time and space on some rushes against, and it's Marner and Matthews in the slot. And, we take those plays away, what we worked on today. So, yeah, I think you start improving a little bit as it becomes more habit within the group.
Do you have any plans for Hellberg, or is he just pretty much strictly insurance in case?
I think probably insurance right now. I think probably evaluate goalies 1 through 5 or 1 through 4 in the organization and go from there. Again, this worked out. We have the roster spot. I think we want to see how this played out with their depth, and we're still in the midst of that.
Is it good too just to have a little extra competition? Amongst the skaters, there's minutes to distribute to a lot of them, but goaltenders.
Yeah, I think that's real because you just don't get that luxury with roster sizes. Very few teams carry 3 goalies. And we have the luxury right now where our roster is to carry 3 goalies. So, yeah, I think there's some of that. And I think there's some of that in practice. And I also think we talked about what we're asking of Villy on a workload. I think this allows us to share some of that workload in practice, which you see, obviously, Hellberg in some of the net.
So, even though the schedule's been spread out, so there's, resting, he gets the rest from a physical standpoint, but do goalies also need it just from a mental standpoint?
100%. Yeah, I think physically, if you talk to our strength coach, science-wise, he's probably in a fairly good spot. But I think there's a mental aspect on that for sure. He obviously was not as sharp last night. Tough game to get rhythm. The puck's not even our end. And the first time it's in our end, it's Austin Matthews from the hash marks in the middle of the ice. That's tough on a goalie. So I think there's a mental power to that too. So it's a reality of it, both physical and mental.
Have you seen anything with the second power play unit last night? It seemed like they kind of had a hard time getting set.
Yeah, no, I just think on a whole, it's unfortunate. I think we had him in a really good spot on that first power play. The puck just rolled over Mo's stick there, and then from there it just never got any rhythm. Yes, you can the night the entries didn't go well. Probably credit maybe to their forecheck too. It's just there's some nights it goes like that.
Kind of picking off your answer to Art's last question, was there something that the Maple Leafs were doing to capitalize on their scoring chances that maybe we weren't doing last night?
No, I think it was more us on what we gave them. Again, we didn't give up a lot, but what we gave them was too much time and ice in the middle of the ice. Our gaps were not there. Our angling wasn't there. And, they didn't give that to us. So I think it was probably more of the overall 60 minutes. Again, it was only a handful, but those were egregious time and space to really good players.
It's been a couple weeks now. What have you thought about Bird's game since he's come back?
Bert's kind of good. I think he's trying to find his game. I think he's trying to, I hate the fact he missed those games through injury. One, because he's a really good player, but two, we were working on some things within our game. The turnovers. We're starting to limit turnovers, risking our game, just the ability of getting above. He missed a lot of that teaching and structure, if you will. And now he's coming in a little bit late, and you can see, he's still having some issues at times managing the puck. But I think there's just some rust there. Again, he's around. I mean, we could be sitting here. He could have 4 or 5 goals already. I think a little of that rust is maybe his finishing touch too. So no, I mean, he's around it. He's involved in a lot of offense. Good sign for us. I think it's just a matter of time. I'd be more concerned if he wasn't getting those type of looks, but he's getting those looks. I just think it's a matter of time where it starts to go in for him.
Toronto's obviously one of the smaller blue lines you guys will face, but is there anything you can take from the success you had on the forecheck against them?
Yeah, I just think that's us. When you've seen us, when we're playing well, we hunt pucks. We get second looks in our offense because we're forecheck, because we stay on top of it from our O zone. So I just think when we're playing well, that's how we look. And last night, again, there were some stretches in that game we were playing well, and it's because we were on top of the puck.
Do you have the popcorn popped for the 2 o'clock?
No, but we'll be watching.
Yeah.
We're an invested coaching staff on the World Cup. So, yeah, we'll be watching for sure. Pretty cool.